And I was born in an area of West Jerusalem known as Katamon. Katamon was a lovely, beautiful residential area where a lot of international people lived. There were embassies very close to where we lived. We had a humble home there, and I went to an English school called London Girls' School, started by British missionaries who came to convert mainly Jews to Christianity. However, there were in that school Christian Arabs like myself. There were Jewish, of course, Jewish students, as well as what's the third? Muslim Arabs as well, of course. So Christians, Muslims, and Jews. And at that time, the Christian, Muslims, and Jews were all Palestinians, and they lived together in peace. There was no problems at the time much between them. And Jerusalem, the old city, is divided into 4 quarters. One was the community of Christians, one had a community of Muslims there by the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one had a community of Jews near the Wailing Wall, and one was a community, the 4th quarter was a community of Armenians who came as refugees to Palestine. And this was during the Ottoman regime. After the Ottoman lost the war, the British came as mandates of Palestine, and actually both the British and the French divided the Middle East among themselves, between themselves actually, where the French had Lebanon, Syria, Tunisia, and Algeria, and the British were mandates over the Iraq, Palestine, Egypt, and that part of the Morocco was part of the French thing too. Anyway, and the troubles started. This was the British came after World War I, when they were supposed to stay for 30 years, while the indigenous people had their independence and would govern themselves. The majority of the people of Palestine were Muslims, Muslim Arabs, and Christians was the same group. However, their religion was Christianity. And the Jews, one good thing the Turks did was to allow each group to practice its own religion, and their civil laws were also respected, and the British followed that status quo. So each group had its own courts to do with marriage, inheritance, civil activities, and ruled under the Ottoman regime. After World War I, as I mentioned, the British came. The British had promised the Arabs, the Hashemites, and so of giving them Transjordan, or helping them have their kingdom there, and Palestine. And at the same time, they had promised the Jews through the Balfour Declaration to help them have their state in Palestine. And that's when the problem started, and they kept escalating. 1948, 1947, the United Nations then partitioned Palestine, but that didn't work. The Arabs did not accept that partitioning. And there were terrorist Jewish groups at the time, the Haganah, the Irgun, they had names, who started sabotaging, demolishing, ethnic cleansing towns and villages in Palestine. And that is known by the Arabs, at least, as the Nakba. Nakba means catastrophe. As a result of that, 750,000 Palestinians were driven out of their homes and found places where the UN came to their rescue, helped them settle in the outskirts of what is now known as the West Bank and Gaza. One incident that sticks in my memory as a child was the bombing of a hotel called the King David Hotel, where the British had their offices, and a lot of Palestinian Arabs worked for them in that same building. That was bombed, and as a child, it was a big event that's close to where we lived, not very close, but it was accessible to us. Everybody went to see that part of the King David that was demolished. And I begged my mother to let me go to that place to see that the thing they were all hyping about. And when I saw that, it left a mark, a scar that never was erased. Children react to traumatic things like that, and the effect keeps evolving and stays with you all your life. So that was the first thing that I saw, and not just heard about from what the adults were saying. Now, the next big thing, I saw that thing, and a few months later, we're a Christian family and Greek Orthodox. So, yeah. So our Christmas comes, we follow a different calendar. Our Christmas comes a week after December 25th. It happens on New Year's Eve. And that night, there was another hotel next to us, and this one was close to our house, which was bombed. And that left a mark that really affected me all my life. And my daughter here, Rana, is going to read to you from my memoir my reaction and what I wrote about that hotel.
Can I take it?
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It was raining more than usual on that frightening night. The thunder and lightning seemed excessive. We went to bed later than usual. At midnight, we were awakened by a loud noise that seemed like an explosion. Immediately after that, there was a light that shone brightly, penetrating the darkness and blinding us. This was followed by a great big bang, which shook the home, breaking the window glass and shattering some of the crystal glasses and china in the china closet. Mama got out of bed and instinctively, after the first blast, ran to Henna's bed. It was my mother's brother. which was by the window, and picked him up. The second blast was stronger and broke the glass of the window area next to his bed. Over and over, my parents repeated the events of that night and would mention the strange impulse that compelled Mama to pick up Hannah out of his bed. The second blast that broke the glass from the window next to my brother's bed would have hurt him, for sure. Nellie, my mother's sister, and I were already awake and screaming when Dad got to our bed. And he picked us up and took a mattress to the corridor away from the windows, and we all lay there where we stayed and thought we were safe. We were all shaken by the blast. At first, we thought it was thunder that we heard, but this was louder than thunder. Dad thought it was an earthquake, but no one mentioned explosions. We were terrified as we huddled together on the mattress on the floor. It took a while for Dad to pry Hannah from Mama's arms. In her fear for him, she held him so tightly, and it seemed like her arms were frozen around him. She then steadied herself and sat with us on the mattress. Then she extended her arms to reach Nellie and me. I remember crying out loud and saying, "I do not want to die." Nellie was calmer. In her sweet voice, she told me, "That is all right. If we die, we will go to heaven." I remember saying hysterically, "No, I do not want to go to heaven." Hannah was silent, lying on Mama's lap. We lay there scared to death, huddled together the rest of the night. All I could think of was, if this was not thunder and lightning or an earthquake, then it must be explosions of bombs. I could not shake the image of the blown up wing of the King David Hotel that I had seen a few months before. We stayed like that till dawn. I had pushed myself closer to Mama. I wanted to bury my face in her chest forever. No sooner than daylight had broken, Dad left the house to find out what had happened. He soon came back with the news that the Semiramis Hotel was blown up, and many people, including the Greek owner and his daughter, whom we knew, were blown up in it.
Oh no.
The Semiramis Hotel was only a street up the road from us. For days after that, people in our neighborhood would talk about this horrible, violent act. It was reported that the bombs were placed there by one of the Jewish terrorist gangs, who took responsibility for it. The gang was targeting some Arab nationalists who were meeting there to discuss the current situation and see how they could prevent the Jews from taking over the land. Other guests were staying at the hotel too to celebrate New Year. They too perished in the blast. People were going to the site of the bombs to see what happened there, while the rescue effort continued for a few days. They did not find any survivors. Most of our neighbors went to watch what had taken place. Dad went to the site, and when he returned, he said something to Mama. He was unusually quiet for a long time afterwards. All the kids in our neighborhood had seen the site. We pleaded with Mama to take us to see it, but she refused until much later when the rescue was terminated. It was a mistake to take us to see that awful sight. I still remember it very clearly. I was terrified for days after that. I followed my mother everywhere she went. My fear was magnified at night when it was dark. I remember sleeping in my parents' bed at night. I was afraid to be by myself even for a short time. This terrible incident did away with my carefree, joyful childhood. It destroyed something vital in my psyche. It left a mark on my sense of security. It was the beginning of the saga of what we started to call the Nakba, or the catastrophe.
Yeah. And right after that, my grandmother in the old city, is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother in the old city sent a taxi for us to leave the house and come until that the problem will be settled, we thought. So we quickly picked up a few clothes, put them in a suitcase, and left. And that was it. We left everything behind. My mother left her jewelry, all the precious things that they valued, documents, everything, because we were thinking it's a matter of a week and we will get back. And then when this didn't happen, we eventually left for the old city. But the old city was sieged. And if any of you remember, those of you who have traveled there, there's the souk, we call it, the marketplace, where all the villagers would bring their produce and sell it there. They couldn't come to the old city. However, people had an idea that something bad was going to happen, so they stored dry ingredients, rice, and all kinds of things that they could use. And we survived for 4 months on what my grandmother had, but others were in the house. My uncles were all there. Everybody came to the old city thinking this is for the holy places will protect you from, they wouldn't bomb the old city. Yeah. Anyway, that was the beginning for us. And those 4 months, we had nothing. We as kids, my brother and my sister and I, we couldn't take our Christmas gifts.
Oh.
This was, I don't know if you see it. This was a picture taken when we left our home. It was Christmas Day. And I was given a doll for my Christmas gift. My sister was given a stroller. She had a little doll too. And my brother had a scooter for Christmas. We only had one big gift that we would anticipate all year round. We couldn't take them with us when we went to the old city, mostly because the scooter could not be used in that place where we were staying. And if she said no to one child, she had to say no to the others. So we didn't take our beautiful toys at the time or anything from our home. And there we stayed for 4 months in my grandmother's basement too, because that wasn't spared from what was going on. And we could imagine 3 preteen and teens kids. I was like 12 at the time. I'm the oldest. There, and my sister was 2 years younger. My brother was a year younger than her. So we were close in age. However, we had no toys, we had no books, we had nothing. And the adults in that one room that we used whispered, and I could read their faces. They were talking about the happenings in Palestine, the ethnic cleansing of villages and towns where the people were massacred, but they didn't want the children to hear that. And they would then smile and pretend that, but I could sense that. I learned to read faces at that stage in my life. And that was the beginning. We survived that, went to Bethlehem, and I became a teacher after high school. I taught in the refugee camps. And then I went to college and got my degree from the American University in Beirut.
And now you need to leave time for someone else to speak.
Yes.
You got it? Okay. You want us to move so they?
No, you're good.
Okay, okay.
Nina, thank you for sharing your story with us. And I would love if maybe there's time at the end if people want to ask you some questions, if you're okay with that, to leave
Absolutely.
some time for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Monica. I am my aunt is the incredible Face Dump. And I have to start by thanking her for pulling together this incredible